not be able to
Oh
do
my
much.
god, that would be such a hilarious, like, long-term transportation method. Is if your party had befriended this ogre, like for whatever reason it had. I don't care how you get to this circumstance, but then your party, instead of having horses, instead of doing anything, they just get in the back of this thing and just let it be their horse and just travel around with it. Show up
dashes
to
every turn.
show up to a village, and they're all terrified, and just four adventurers pop out, and they're like, "Hey, got any place we can stable our ogre?
Then he eats all the horses. And,
We'll pay for that," and just give, like, it's the classic shitty adventurer trope where, like, everybody in the village is like, "God, I hate adventurers. They just come in with their ogres, they eat all of our horses, and then pay us 200 gold, ruining our entire economy."
it's such bullshit.
Like, just hyperinflation the second that adventurers come through.
Yeah, because they found like 1,500 years' salary in a cave like 3 days ago. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Welcome to Monsters in Multiclass, your Dungeons & Dragons fix. I'm Kevin Odie.
I'm Jared Bornagle.
And I'm Will Meldon.
And we'll be hanging out with you for a while to talk about anything and everything D&D related. On this episode, we're taking a look at the Druid Monk multiclass, Ogres from the Monster Manual, and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, and then another segment of Ask Monsters in Multiclass. So pull up a chair and stick around for a while. Once again, apologies for the decreased sound quality. We're practicing social distancing, so I have to change this up. Hopefully we can get back to normal soon, but who knows?
We're practicing for our social distancing performance that will come later.
Wait, what?
He said we're practicing social distancing. So we're...
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, I thought that was killer. So this episode, we're taking a look at the Monk Druid multiclass. Monks are your martial characters that pull from the key within themselves to fight even better. Depending on the subclass, it might be something like creating shadows, or punching a lot more, or dodging after a punch, or if you're way of the four elements, sucking. If you go Druid, you've got a 13 wisdom requirement. These are the full casters of D&D purely in nature. And yeah, they get all of their powers from nature and not wearing metal armor. So requirements overall, we got 13 dex and 13 wisdom. Really just comes from the monk, because the druids is 13 wisdom as well. First thoughts on this multi-class? I guess we'll give it to Jared. We usually don't give it to Jared first. So my thoughts on this are... No, okay, I won't do that.
I don't care.
Kevin, what are your thoughts?
It's just a lot of you talking at once. I don't know how much
I know.
people might tune out. Yeah.
As they should. I generally do. But no, you go first, Kevin. What are you thinking?
So the attributes line up nicely. Wisdom and dex, not bad at all. This one's pretty tricky, though. There's a lot to untangle in terms of what works with, like, Druid Wild Shape and the monk stuff. And as we always talk about with monks, it's hard to multiclass because a lot of what makes them a monk is rejection of everything every other class uses. So I think there's a couple things we could look into here that might work well, but for the most part, I'm not too sure.
Okay, Will, what are your thoughts?
I've been playing a druid for a while now, and I think that offhand, just looking carefully, you see things like the unarmored defense of a monk, and that combination of dex makes a lot of sense to you, because the druids are limited. Their best armor they'll ever get by the rules as written is hide armor. So that's what you're stuck with for the entire game. So you have to either dex max with light armor, or just kind of accept that you are going to be very easy to hit, or, rely on the fact that you're a bear 8 hours out of every 24-hour day. So I think that's an interesting combination, tempting as a druid to see. And then it really does come down to the question of, can I be a karate bear, like Kevin said?
The answer is kinda.
kind of is what I've gathered as well.
Yeah, so I guess we could just start with that one. 'Cause that's kind
No,
of some of the
honestly, I think
pressing
that's the most important thing is what are you losing out when you wild shape as a druid and you're a monk multiclass? Because I think that's going to really determine what direction you go with this. First thing is I think your unarmored defense stays. I don't see any reason why your unarmored defense would drop, as that's a class feature.
Yeah, so you get the choice. That's my understanding. Whenever
Right.
you have multiple options of what your AC is, they don't stack. You pick which one you want.
Right. So
So-
monks get the unarmored defense. Sorry, Kevin. They get the unarmored defense, which is 10 plus their dexterity modifier plus their wisdom modifier. So as long as that's higher when they wild shape, dex plus wiz plus 10, than the AC of the creature, then they should be able to choose that.
Right. That's my understanding. That one, actually, I forgot to specifically look up. I don't know if you saw like an official ruling on that. Because I know it says you get the beast's AC, but since it's a class feature, sounds like it could still.
Yeah, I think the class feature would overrule that. And since as a
Yeah.
druid you retain class features, I'm sure we could look it up, and if we're wrong, I would be very shocked.
Yeah. Keep in mind, though, you would use the dexterity of the beast, not
Correct.
your base.
Correct. So something like
So
a
that
bear,
actually might not work out that well for you.
the AC of
Eh.
beasts is pretty low. Because
Yeah,
look at
it's always going to be competing.
because you keep your wisdom. So if your wisdom's plus
So
4, then you're already beating out most beasts, because usually it's around 13 or lower. Like something like a wolf is 11, a bear is 13. I might be just making these numbers up, but they sound about right.
It's around there, yeah.
And the intention obviously was always that you don't have your armor. Most people, it's about the armor not being there anymore. So, no, I think that is the case as well.
And honestly, I don't think we brought this up when we talked about the druid barbarian, but I think this would hold true as well.
What is their?
Oh, yeah.
They're unarmored.
Yeah.
You might have talked about it. It sounds somewhat familiar.
I don't. That was like our
that
third
was
episode.
a long one. Yeah, long time ago.
So yeah, I mean that was the whole thing with barbarian. You can keep your rage. So I could see the unarmored defense working out there as well. So I think that's like
Right.
strength and
With the
con. So that one is probably
Dex and
less,
con?
something like that. So it's less good because they're both physical traits that you do take from the beast. Whereas the druid, you at least have some wisdom affecting it, that you can say, well, I've got a good wisdom, so I've always got a minimum 15 AC even when I wild shape. That's pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
If it's
Yeah,
20,
definitely.
obviously.
Yeah. Which, we're kind of bouncing around here, but with druids getting access to Shillelagh, it kind of really incentivizes you to just put everything into wisdom, get that up to 20 right away.
Yeah, I would
Definitely.
agree.
Yeah. But back on, what keeps in wild shape or not. Then you have martial arts. This is where it gets, I think, kind of funky. That's the one where if you attack, you could use dex instead of strength when unarmed strikes and monk weapons. The unarmed weapon damage and monk weapon damage dice goes up. Starts at a D4, then D6, D8 at level 11, and so on. And then when you use the attack action, attack with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon, you could do a bonus unarmed attack. So why this one gets weird is natural weapons, which beasts have, bites and claws are considered natural weapons, are not unarmored weapons. They're not monk weapons.
Correct.
So those don't work with this. Also, if you take multi-attack, like bears have multi-attack, I think, where you get like a bite and 2 claws.
Mm-hmm.
Multi-attack is not the attack action.
Correct.
It's the multi-attack action, and obviously nothing works with that. But any creature can make an unarmed strike.
Oh,
You could still do an unarmed strike as a bear. You could headbutt him. You could backpaw him or whatever. You could belly flop on him. Whatever
you
you
can
want.
karate bear.
Yeah. And that will use the martial arts die because it's a class feature. So that still comes through. So you get the D4, D6, D8, and so on as it goes up with you. And then you could use the bonus action attacks and you could flurry of blows and do all that cool stuff. But you're missing out on one of the big reasons of wild shaping is you're getting like the multi-attack and bites and claws and things like that. So,
Right. Huh.
like I said, it gets
okay.
kind of weird.
I didn't realize
But you're
that.
a karate bear.
But you're a karate bear.
Yes.
You've now superseded why you would have formerly needed to do those things.
Right. That's true. Yeah, because you would still get your like at level 5. I'm pretty sure you would still get like extra attack. Right? That's a
See,
class feature. I
Yeah, that's a
don't.
class feature. So you could make 2 unarmed strikes, and then your bonus action unarmed strike.
Right.
Wow.
this
Which
is
would
one of
then
those
be,
situations
D6s.
where it just would have been so fucking dumb to do that unless you had this,
Oh,
because
yeah.
you were doing 1 damage each time.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, 1 plus strength. Yeah. So now you can
See,
do
this-
D4, D6, whatever, plus Dex.
This takes a bunch of my notes from before and just crumples them all up and throws them out, because a lot of what I had was that, well, you can't take the attack action, so you don't get any of this stuff. And so all of the things that are monk 3rd level subclass abilities are like, on Flurry of Blows, you can do this. And it's like, well, you can't do Flurry of Blows. This opens up the door so that you can do a Way of the Open Hand Bear Druid Monk. Ugh. Like, you're not going to be as strong. That's just right out the gate, because you're not getting
Right.
your bite damage or your claw damage or whatever. But I mean, do you care?
I don't know. I mean, it's still decent because it's your martial arts die, which goes up with you.
At level 5, it's 1d6, but before that, I mean, it's 1d4. So you need to be,
Right.
at least something in Druid in order to get all this wild shape stuff started off. And then from there, I mean, until level 5 is 1d4. I guess it would be 2d4 plus your dex times 2. That's not that great. That's not a lot of damage. But you can
The
flurry of
irony
blows.
is,
Yeah.
the best time in the like overlap is like when you first get this as your Circle of the Moon Druid and become CR1 at a fairly low level, which is I think 2nd.
Yeah.
That's like huge. Whereas you would just like destroy the average monk as like a CR1 bear.
Yeah.
But then, it scales up and down depending on where you are at the class.
Yeah, I just pulled up Brown Bear, which is challenge rated 1. That's probably the go-to one. It has a multi-attack of Bite and Claw. Its Bite is +6 to hit, 1d8 plus 4, and its Claw is 2d6 plus 4. I mean, so those do hit pretty hard. You would kind of be losing out on a lot.
But I guess what's nice is that you can take that if you don't plan on using your Flurry of Blows. Like from levels 1 to before you're level 5 in Monk, and you get your D6 and your Monk weapon damage goes up to a D6. You're definitely going to do better with your Bite and Claws, unless you need to do your Flurry of Blows for some reason, which, once again, Way of the Open Hand gives you something when you Flurry of Blows, as well as a couple other of the subclasses. I'm drawing a blank. Drunken Master, when you Flurry of Blows, you get to disengage for free.
Free, yeah. You just get disengaged for free.
And I think...
Your speed increases by 10.
Right, yeah, so that one's good. I think Kensai might get something as well, but I'm not sure. I don't know why you'd go Kensai into this. That already seems really silly.
No.
But no, they don't get a Flurry of
At
Blows
least
thing.
not Moon Druid. Where
Right,
you use a
definitely.
combat wild shape. There might be options for others.
Okay. Well, okay, so Drunken Master and Way of the Open Hand. That closed the door on them before, but now it's like when you want to do those things, you still can. You're just going to be doing a little bit less damage. Or it might even come out
Right.
as equal with Flurry
I
of
just think,
Blows.
you get more attacks, 3 versus 2. Or if you're level 5, 4 versus 2 for a resource. Because, the challenge rating for Moon Druid doesn't go up until 6. Then it's like a third of your level or something like that. And then even just the unarmed bonus attack, you could do no resources for 2 unarmed strikes and then the martial arts bonus attack. There's an extra attack in there. It's, it could be... It just depends.
Yeah, it just depends, but I think that you've got the option there, and you're not that limited.
Right.
So I'm
And
right out the gate pretty happy with what you don't lose from going into Monk here. That's always our biggest issue with going into Monk for a multi-class. It's like so many things just drop off the second that you're like, oh, I touched a shield. But in this, it's like, who cares? You don't need to touch a shield. You can be a karate bear.
Right, and you become instantly a lot more tankier.
Right. And even without those
actually,
other... Go ahead.
So Brown Bear armor class is actually 11.
Yeah,
So
it's not good.
absolutely your 10 plus dex, which is 0. So pretty much 10 plus your wisdom, which, plus 4, plus 3, plus 4, plus 5.
Whatever.
So you get 13, 14, 15 AC as a Brown Bear, plus the 34 buffer hit points where it doesn't actually hurt you.
Yeah, definitely.
It's pretty nice.
And then I was going to say that for the other 2 key point abilities you get at second level, Patient Defense and Step of the Wind, those are still there. You're not limited by the Flurry of Blows or anything like that. So you can still do your dodge as a bonus action, which you're not really going to use a bonus action as a bear unless you cast a Druid spell before going into it, and then you're like maintaining that with bonus action, which is a very common thing for Druids. But still, your bonus action is probably going to be free to do your dodge or your disengage or dash.
Right.
I think those are generally, we've had this conversation before, it's like, well, that's what rogues get for free as a bonus action, so that always sucks.
But rogues aren't bears in this case.
Rogues aren't bears. Unless you're a Druid.
Rogue Druid,
Yeah.
which I don't think we've done yet.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we've had
yet.
conversations on sneak attack while wild shaped, so probably have.
Which is
I
just
don't know.
doesn't work.
It doesn't matter. We need to make sure that we like very limit focus to just this one multi-class, because I
Yes.
can't remember what we've done anymore. It's been 2 years. If I'm not looking at the spreadsheet, it's all go.
600 episodes.
This might be episode 60,
Jeez.
maybe just 59. I don't know. We're right around there. Yeah, there's a lot to remember.
So, all right, so those are the main monk class features. I think you're, again, maintaining really most of them in your wild shape, which means that Moon Druid is a very viable option.
It's probably also worth to go into unarmored movement. There's no reason you wouldn't get this.
Oh, that's a good
as,
point.
Whatever animal you choose, right?
Right.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
And animals are ridiculously fast. It just comes out of nowhere on you. So that is also worth noting, is that now you have a 50-foot speed as that bear, which is
kind of ridiculous.
That's your speed. That's just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, starting out right away at second level. Their speed's 40 to start, so.
And then dash as a bonus action. So 100 feet of movement if you need it, and you're not even using your action. Like that's a scary bear. And then he just stands up and does karate on you.
Right, and then Flurry of blows you.
Well, not in the same turn, but next turn, yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
And way with the open hand and knocks you prone. Or
I mean,
that feels
seriously.
fitting for a bear. Just throws his weight into you.
Right. Though I
Hits you with a big meaty
really,
paw.
really like the Drunken Master. Like, just for the flavor of it, of just the bear just swaying around and coming up with these, like, crazy hits to the side.
It fits with the class combo name, too.
Which is?
Drunk.
Oh, wouldn't it be drunk? Druid. Oh, I guess you D-R-U-N-K. Yeah, drunk. Okay, well, that specific combination of Circle of the Moon and Drunken Master is going to be the drunk.
Officially.
Yeah, it's officially the drunk.
Officially the drunk.
And all the things going up. I mean,
and
just
not
good.
that this really matters, but you could even deflect missiles.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
It's just like,
Yeah, that doesn't come up a whole bunch, but
No.
it's kind of neat.
I can see a less fun DM looking at you and doing something along the lines of saying you're not capable of catching missiles in that form. Because you can do that to get out of some things with Wild Shape, but don't do that, DM. That ability sucks anyways.
It says with one hand, though. You don't have hands, you've got paws.
Oh, shit.
This is obviously rules as intended.
Slow fall.
4th level ability, yeah. That's,
Yep.
just
Stunning
good.
strike.
Which is probably, I say, one of the things that's I was kind of struggling with on this multi-class is, like, where do you stop? The monk is definitely one of those linear classes that just, like, almost every level you're getting something good.
Right.
And in the druid's case, it's not stepping on anything the druid has. So I guess you're kind of free to do what you want, because 5th level, yeah, you get that stunning strike, you get extra attack, and I think you also get your weapon die goes up to a d6. So, like, you almost have to go to 5th level with the monk on this one, but after that, it's like up to you. I mean, 6th level is still good. You get your key empowered strikes, which means
Right.
your bare fists are now overcoming magical resistances.
But druids get that anyways.
Do
With
they?
Shillelagh.
I think
Which
don't
doesn't-
druids primal strike at 6th level.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing,
Moon
yeah.
Druids.
Yeah.
So, I mean, okay, but
would-
that's pretty high. It depends
yeah,
on...
But I mean, it's 6th in both. I mean, I don't know.
You've got a good point. You probably don't want to go 6 in both because of that. Like you're at least, kind of having some conflictions there.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, then
It's
at
kind of
6th level
tough.
though, you get a bumped up challenge rating as Druid with the Moon Druid. That's when you could do your challenge rating as high as your Druid level divided by 3. So you could start doing challenge rating 2 at 6th level.
Which is critical to get that class up.
Yeah, that's, to me, I think might be the biggest downfall of Moon Druid Monk. Is I feel like Moon Druids barely keep up with their challenge rating, and then you're slowing it down.
But you're increasing your AC a lot. So there is something there. I mean, where you're going to be a lot tankier. You're not going to be hitting as hard, it seems like, but there are some things that I guess you get out of this. It's not just complete, shutting it down. It's more just a trade-off.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you get some other stuff, the bonus action movement and flurry blows and all that stuff we were just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends if that works for you or not.
I'm trying to think what's a CR3 beast you would normally turn into. And we always go with bears.
Well, that's not until 9, but...
No, that's 6th.
No, 6 divided by 3 is 2.
I don't think it's by 3. Wait, starting at 6th level, you can transform into a beast with a challenge rating as high as your druid level divided by 3 rounded down. Why does it say starting at 6th level, you can transform into a beast with a challenge rating as high as your druid level? Oh, I'm sorry, I misread that. Yeah, I reread that as 3. So you were correct. 9th level is where you get challenge rating 3. So at 6th level, you can turn into a polar bear, if you've seen one. Which is challenge rating 2.
Everyone's seen a polar bear.
My druid actually worked at a zoo.
Yeah, that would actually be a great meta backstory. Is like your druid enclave had like a specific zoo just to max out their challenge rating requirements. It's like, all right, kids, these are all the animals you're going to use for wild shape. All the rest of them are crap. Fuck those animals.
Challenge rating 2, a lot of dinosaurs, like the Allosaurus.
Dinosaurs are the one that DMs will always kind of like. You didn't fucking see a dinosaur, dude, because they are a little OP and they fit a little too well with druid stuff.
Right, cave bear, an enormous tentacle, apparently.
Oh yeah, because that's an animal.
Is it a beast? Listed as a beast? Yeah.
Oh my god,
that's how I filtered. Giant
what about
boar.
That challenge rating 14 weasel that was actually an archwizard in disguise? That took me so long to figure out.
Wait,
Stupid
what?
D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
If you look by like beast by challenge rating, there's a challenge 14 that's just like a weasel. And you like look into it, and it's one of the campaigns.
Oh.
An arch mage has the stats of an arch mage, but he liked being a weasel so much he made a permanent polymorph of being a weasel.
Oh my god! But he retains everything else.
Challenge rating 14 weasel.
Totally makes sense.
Do a giant crayfish.
Once you get that swim speed, at least.
Yeah, giant white moray eel, a rhinoceros, saber-toothed tiger, swarm of poisonous snakes. Can you do swarms? Probably not.
I think they said no.
Not a fan of that, if you can.
Yeah. So there's options out there. Probably like saber-toothed tiger, rhinoceros, or cave bear would be the main ones, but I'm sure there's something I'm missing. But
still, level 6 druid, or I guess moon druid specifically, you're getting that, 40 something HP. That's for all intents and purposes just free HP on top of your regular HP.
Right.
So even if you're not doing as much damage at those higher levels, the increased AC I feel like is extremely useful and allows you to maintain concentration on whatever spells you have for a longer than expected time. Because at 5th level, you do have access to 3rd level spells as a druid. You get some pretty good stuff. You get, I want to say Call Lightning, but I might be wrong there. I forget what level Call Lightning is.
That one requires your action, too, I think. That's why I always hate that one. Yeah, it's decent. It's like it's got like a 5-foot radius. Does decent damage, but you have to use your entire action.
Okay. That's true.
But your Flaming Sphere, which I always spam like a crazy person, that would work.
Yep, Flaming Sphere would be great. And again, you're just harder to hit, so great. You're going to keep it up for longer.
The capstone, and I've been like thinking about this for a while. The capstone of Circle of the Moon, in all honesty, is Elemental Wild Shape, which is all the way to 10th level, and that's the only reason that it really keeps up throughout the rest of the game, and it doesn't really combine well as well, I don't think, with the monk.
Why do you say that?
Because then you really are there's some of I don't know. Like the fire elemental actually does seem pretty cool, especially if you want to do monk things, because you can damage people by entering their spaces, but everyone else is like low on dexes. The really good one, obviously, is the earth elemental, which has 126 free hit points.
Right, 17 AC.
But it's a -1 to their dex.
Right, so you would just take the natural
so you don't get
armor.
that natural AC. Yeah,
you would just take that.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, looking at the fire elemental, if it has +3 to dex, if at level 10 for druid, which you should be at that point 20 in wisdom, you're going to have an 18 AC fire elemental with 102 HP.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
pretty good.
Pretty darn good. That's actually about on par with a level 10 hero. And that's, again, on top of your normal self.
Right.
And once that goes away, yep, you're still just a monk druid with full health and full ass-kicking ability. And if you want to use your... I guess, can you use your offhand attack? Or what do you call it? The
martial arts unarmed bonus action attack?
Yeah, like, can you do
strike?
that?
Yeah.
Unarmed strikes? Yeah, thank you. Unarmed strikes.
According to a tweet from Jeremy Crawford, every single creature could do an unarmed attack.
Okay.
So you would have to forgo, like if you want fire elemental, you're not doing their action. You're not doing the touch attack.
Yes.
You're just taking the attack action, doing an unarmed attack, which is going to do your 1d4, 1d6, whatever. You had a monk plus dex.
The fire elemental specifically can enter people's spaces just as movement and cause damage that way too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's the fire form, yeah.
So you could be standing on top of a guy and like doing martial arts while burning him alive.
That's super cool.
I mean, mechanically, we're talking about a D10 here, but it's still, it's great.
But again, a D10 on top of everything else you're doing. And as usual, or I guess as I've said like 5 times before, this only needs to be a problem when you want to use that extra attack or the bonus action stuff. So if you want to do Flurry of Blows, or if you want to do your offhand attack, which I don't know why you do that really at all. So yeah, I mean there's really just a very limited amount of times where you need to forgo the touch damage. In this case, the fire elemental is its touch multi-attack, where it does 2d6 fire damage, and then 1d10 at the start of each of the enemy's turns, and you can do that twice. That's really good.
Yeah.
Fire elemental's really good.
Yeah, it ignites, and they're all good.
And it's immune to poison damage.
Most of these
everything's immune to poison damage.
And resistance.
I don't know why. But that's my point about that one though, is that's mainly how the class keeps up in the later games, because you're still limited to like challenge rating 7 monsters, and they just don't. They're not that great.
I mean, these elementals are right around there. They're all challenge rating 5.
But they're magical, so you do have resistance to non-magical attacks and immunity to conditions, whereas most beasts just kind of suck.
Jeez, yeah, that's really... Boon Druid's kind of OP, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it gets pretty ridiculous. I mean, especially at level 20 when you combine a Earth Elemental with unlimited uses, and it's just, you can't kill it anymore.
Right, yeah. Okay, well let's move this away from the Moon Druid a little bit, because I think we've determined that's great. The Moon Druid class as a whole is really great. What type of, I guess, role-playing combinations can we think of beyond Karate Bear?
Wow, why would we do that?
All right. If you guys have nothing, I've got one to at least start with here. And it is my favorite Druid subclass, the Spore Druid. Because that wild shape is absolutely amazing with martial classes, which the monk is, and you retain any and everything that you have with your monk classes. And I was thinking of a combination of Way of the Long Death and the Spore Druid. Very often we'll have like a death obsessed character. I think we did that with clerics as well. But I like to think of like a monastic order far off in the forest who are just obsessed with death in the natural order, and they specifically focus on cultivating fungi, as fungi is very often there with death and surrounding death, and you could very easily mash the two together, where their idea of perfection is this Spore Druid form, and your character is one of the few who are able to obtain it, or maybe working towards it, and through the course of the campaign becomes able to obtain it. But then from there, you're flying. I mean, in the same ways that the Circle of the Moon Druid is just amazing, I think the Spore Druid follows suit, where you have just temporary HP that just keeps adding, and combining the 1d6 additional damage. What? Why are you shaking your head?
It doesn't just keep adding. That's not how temp HP works. It replaces.
You're completely misunderstanding what I mean. Every level you get more temp HP.
Got it.
Yeah, so every level you go up in Spore Druid, it just gets better and better. I think it's an additional 4 or something.
That's
4 per level.
How it works.
Yeah. So it's about on par with how much HP you're getting from wild shaping normally. But you get an extra d6 with every melee attack you do. So when you're combining that with the monks, level 5 or so, maybe not even level 5, even lower levels, you can get an extra 3d6 when you flurry of blows, because you get your first attack. So that's using a staff, 1d8 plus 1d6. Then your second just fist attack, that's another 1d4 plus 1d6. And then another one of those, 1d4 plus 1d6. And that could be at level 4. 2 in monk, 2 in druid. And it's not something you can just do all day. I mean, once per short rest, I think. Maybe twice with the flurry of blows. But that's crazy damage. I think it actually comes out to an average of 29, as I wanted to do the math, because that was pretty crazy. And that outclasses a paladin at that level.
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely think Spore Druid is a really awesome way to go with this. Specifically the long death. I like the flavor, but I don't see it working too well. Like Touch of Death gives you 10 hit points if you reduce a creature to 0, which directly interferes with the Spore Druid, which also gives you 10 hit points.
Right.
And if you replace those 10 hit points, you lose all your fancy things. It's kind of obnoxious, but that's how it be.
Oh, interesting. So you don't even get a choice on that, do you? When you reduce a creature within 5 feet of you to 0 HP, you gain temp HP equal to your wisdom modifier. It's not you can gain.
You decide which to keep.
Does it say that?
Yeah.
Yes,
I
it's in
think
the
that's
rule
just
tip.
Oh, go on.
It's in the rule tip. You decide which temp hit points to keep, because a lot of these mechanics operate on the if you lose these temp hit points, you don't get your feature, like Armor of Agathis, and in this case, your Spore form.
Right.
So that'd be an interesting way to break the game, is finding ways to temp HP heal for one on your players, just to dunk on them.
Right. Yeah, so you probably wouldn't be, choosing that unless you weren't in your spore form symbiotic entity, which you might not be all the time. I mean, Musty uses it pretty often. I don't know. Would you say every single fight though?
It's slowly leaning towards that as I get a better feel for it, because 2 times a day, it's becoming like a barbarian rage in a lot of ways.
In what way?
But
where it just becomes yep, first turn, I use that.
Yeah, first thing I do is I'm going to do that. I think it doesn't scale quite as much because you don't get as many uses, but I don't know. It's not useless, but it does step on itself. The Touch of the Long Death.
Right. Yeah, I get that. So flavor-wise, I'll agree, or say, that it's a really good mix. Might not be the best mechanically. If you're not liking the hit you take to that, you could always just do Way of the Shadow, or Way of the Open Hand. Way of the Open Hand, I feel like is just my default. Like, you're a monk,
Right.
So it's like, okay, they're more obsessed with the fungi than the death stuff. Okay, if the mechanics matter.
I'm
Right.
always the one that's bitching about like, a monk wouldn't be able to believe in God or something, just like weird and counterproductive. But I think this is one of these times where there is no interference in my mind, spiritually or commitment wise. I feel like the druid and the monk, their mentalities mesh well together in that they are both very open to the idea of worshiping in your own way, but accomplishing your goals.
Right. Definitely.
Right. And I could absolutely see having a druid go the route of, so they worship nature. They realize we're all a part of nature. I'm part of nature, so let me perfect myself the best I can. And the monk is a very good way to do that.
Yeah, I could definitely
Perfect,
see
honestly. The exception being, of course, Way of the Kensai.
I was mechanically, though, I like Way of the Kenzai, but you still have all the other stuff of being a monk.
Yeah.
The timeless body, the your key, your unarmored movements, evasion, stillness of mind. That's all just base monk stuff. The monk at its core is about perfecting yourself,
Mm-hmm.
not any one particular subclass. So then the Way of the Kenzai, you get the Kenzai weapon, so it really kind of opens up what weapons you could use. I would do this with Spore Druid, where you're going to be up in melee and attack and stuff. So you don't need to worry about Shillelagh or anything like that. And then, you get just nice abilities like Agile Parry, where if you attack with one of these Kenzai weapons, you get +2 bonus to AC, or Kenzai Shot if you're going ranged.
If you make an unarmed strike as part of the attack action while you're holding a Kensai weapon.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Then you get the +2 bonus to AC. So that one's a little weird,
Right.
because I feel like, if once you get extra attack, you can make one Kensai weapon attack, and then one unarmed strike, and then as your bonus action, you make another unarmed strike, and you get the +2 AC. If you make two Kensai weapon attacks and then a bonus action unarmed strike, you do not get the +2 AC.
Correct.
But still very good.
Right. Do you think there might be any benefit in... So Kenzai, Path to Kenzai allows a monk to be ranged. They can pick a longbow as a Kenzai weapon, which will then count as a monk weapon. Think there's any benefit in that with any of the druid subclasses? Probably not Spores, because that one's pretty melee-centric.
Yeah.
That one's that one 10 feet is like where half your class features actually happen. It's kind of ridiculous.
I would
Obviously
say
not Circle of Moon.
If anything, Circle of the Shepherd, it could go well with it. I don't think they're specifically going to have synergy, but I don't think you're losing out on any class features. The Circle of the Shepherd is like really focused on summoning. So if you were a monk who was focused on summoning, okay, now you can be further back, summon your creatures, summon your spirit totem, and still do damage from afar, and not take hits while you've got your summoned creatures going into attack.
Yeah. I'm always a little disappointed in Circle of Shepherd, because, it is the summoning one, where if you want to be a good summoner, go Circle of Shepherd, but that really doesn't kick in until 6th level. Up until
because
that point,
of the mighty
your
summoner?
summoning's no different. Yeah, up until that point, you don't get anything that helps if you're summoning.
The Bear Spirit Totem can definitely help, just because you get each creature of your choice in the aura gains 5 temp HP plus your Druid level. So you're making them a little beefier right from the start, but you have to expend a pretty big resource.
Right.
That's actually kind of a big deal.
7 HP per summon.
For some of them, yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's a pretty hefty amount. That can be an extra hit, which is a lot when we're talking about summoning 4 different things. 4 different hits that your summons can take. Yep, I will take that. And it gets even better, as you said, at 6th level, whereas 2 extra hit points per hit die it has. Now, this is such a class that I feel like the player needs to be prepared. I could so easily see this just shoot right down the chute when they're just like, they summon it and they're like, okay, so everything gets more health, but okay, so how many hit dice do brown bears have? All right, and it's like, oh god, this is the summoning issue magnified, because now you have to add all these class features to it. So I
That's my
really
biggest
hope.
issue with the class.
Oh, for sure. And I know we've talked about this before. Just summoning as a whole is slow. I was really happy with the new UA they came out with that had a couple of new summoning spells that were like, here's one thing that's really good.
I liked it and I kind of hated it because it just like they just like scaled this idea of a summon, and that's what it is. It's like the avatar of, I don't know, all those centipedes you wanted to summon but you didn't want to deal with. Mechanically it's the same, but there's a lot less initiative rolling. Fuck it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think part of the appeal of summoning is, despite the slowdown of combat, turning the action economy on its head. So those new spells kind of get rid of that game breaking part of summoning. I don't even know if game breaking is the right word, but
It breaks it in the sense that people stop having fun. It doesn't break in the sense that you win.
There you go. Yes. So, again, I think Circle of the Shepherd really relies on having a lot of little creatures. So I don't know. You just got to be prepared for a slow game with the summoner.
Mm-hmm.
Or they have to be super on top of it. I don't know, because I feel like if every time we've had somebody who plays one of these classes, it's somebody who really freaking shouldn't. Like, they are not prepared at all for summoning four bears.
That, yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, I'm learning the game as a whole, and I want to be a druid, and oh, this summoning four bears thing seems nice. And then they're like, okay, so what can the bear do on my turn? Speed up. So I wonder, in the hands of somebody who is prepared for it, if it's such a problem.
I'm going to go ahead and say less so.
Less so, yes. Still there,
yeah.
Yes. You can't get around it.
I guess one of us needs to try it.
I mean, as Musty, the sport druid, I have summon spells prepared every third session, and I'm like, I'm not bringing that into combat. Especially now that we're doing it remote, so we can't move things on the map anymore. It's like, all right, Centipede 1 moves 5 feet up into the left. Centipede 7, because the giant insect, 10 centipedes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not putting that on a map where you have to control all of them.
If you're putting on 10 centipedes, I'm splitting them into 2 groups of 5 and saying you can't control their movement beyond that, and they're attacking as 5.
Are you serious? You're just going to ruin the spell for me?
Yes.
Ruin my tactical abilities?
If that honestly ruins any part of it, I'll say you can split them up as needed.
No, I was just going to summon a scorpion.
Okay.
Scorpion.
Yeah.
I actually do like the idea, though, that before we got sidetracked, of defending your summon, or having your summon swarm attack things while you sat in the back with your Kensai bow or whatever.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's a good combo. You're not gonna feel like I don't know, you're just protecting yourself, because I think it's a lot of times once you summon is you're like, okay, now the best thing for them to do is hit me until I drop concentration. They're like, well, if you can stay back, then screw all that. Who needs it? You also got cantrips. I know it just hasn't been brought up. I mean, that can be nice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd ever take cantrips over doing monk stuff, but the option's there. I mean, if you can...
They're a good way to get the range that monks often don't have. So something like the Way of the Sun Soul or Kensai, if you're only using it to get range, is really, really outclassed by, auto-scaling cantrips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Frostbite or something. 64 range.
Is Frostbite a cantrip? Did you just make that up?
Yeah, he just makes things up sometimes.
No one ever takes it. No, it's not. It does 1d6 cold damage, and... Oh.
No,
that might be actually a new one.
What?
Maybe it's from Elemental Evil. Yeah, that's the one around then. They have disadvantage on the next weapon attack roll. It's actually a pretty solid one.
I don't know this cantrip. I just looked it up, too. Is it one word?
It does D6s.
All right.
Which is what I don't like.
Need to get so into this. Yeah, okay, it's one word. Yeah. That's what threw me off. Okay. Yep. It's like Ray of Frost, but that has a different effect. Instead of slower, it disadvantages the next weapon attack roll. That's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, I was going to say, it outclasses really the cutting words from bards. The only difference is this is an attack roll versus cutting words as a save.
It's like a charisma save, too. or wisdom.
I think
It
it's
doesn't
wisdom.
matter.
Cutting
That's
words
a
is also a
D4.
reaction, so you can like do it in a
Oh no,
planned
not
way.
cutting words. Vicious mockery.
Yeah,
A vicious mockery.
because that's only a D4.
Whatever. Yeah. And then also you could get Shillelagh. We mentioned that earlier,
Right.
which I really think might be the play if you're not going like Moon Druid.
I think it just really comes down to the question of what's higher, your dex or your wisdom. If
Right,
you're
but also Shillelagh and makes it magical, which you could get right away at level 1. Because Druids get cantrips right away.
with the way the game
it makes
works-
it a D8.
right. Oh, just automatically a D8.
Yep.
Well, if you're using a staff, then that's going to happen anyways. But you have to hold it with 2 hands,
Right.
which is usually what people do anyways. I don't know. It's not
That's
bad.
true.
I
Yeah.
think it's just a
Yeah.
little more situational. But yeah, I wouldn't turn down Shillelagh. I'd definitely take Shillelagh as well, because it just makes
Yeah.
sense.
That opens up options of being like a land druid, where you're kind of a monk spellcaster, so you could focus on getting wisdom up to 20, and so your spells are potent, and then you use Shillelagh so you can still actually, function in melee.
You'd be so much better off going Circle of the Land than Monk than Way of the Four Elements anything.
Yep.
Like because
You'd
Circle
be
of the
better
Land,
skipping levels than going anything in 4 elements.
Oh, and since we've been focused a lot on what can you do while wild shape, all that Way of the Four Elements stuff you cannot
Correct.
do while wild shaped, because it's spend the key points to cast the spell.
Mm-hmm.
And the wording's very clear there. And you can't cast a spell while wild shaped. So no saving grace there.
Not for this one. Sorry.
I think we've yet to find one.
No.
It's never gonna happen. Such
The
fucking
only ones I've
garbage.
seen are when people make homebrew Way of the Four Elements that I look at and go, yeah, okay, that's actually pretty good, and then move on with my life because nobody wants to play it anyways.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this?
I like it a lot. I've been thinking about this subclass for a while now. As
Which
like a
subclass?
supplement to my current class.
Oh, Monk?
This combination.
Going
Yeah.
into Monk.
But
That'd
I'm
be-
not gonna do that.
I mean,
Do you have the decks?
No, I don't. Not well, I think I actually do, but it's not enough.
like you're close on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think it'd be pretty cool. We can always work it in.
Nah, man. Nah, it's too late. It's too late and he's too old.
I'd say even one level dip, you get
He's got-
unarmored defense and martial defense.
He has
Martial
14
arts.
decks.
You can't train somebody that old in these ways. It's too dangerous.
He has 14 decks, and you literally have such a blank slate background that we can say it's always been a part of your Druid or your Furball clan's past, and now you're finally just like, I don't know. We can literally, it's a game, dude. If you want to do it, we can do it.
It's too dangerous, Jared.
Like he literally does mostly martial stuff. He
We cannot
casts a
trade
couple
him.
of spells. It's literally all there. It's all ready for you, Will. You just let me know. He's like looking it over now. He's like, "Oh shit, I guess I totally could."
It's
I think
tough. It's tough.
Even a one level dip is like really good for you.
Well, yeah.
Oh, I mean, it would get your AC to 17, right there.
That's not a huge deal.
No, I mean it's +1. Beyond that, you could do your. You can take your bonus action to
Yeah,
get
martial-
your extra
martial
attack.
arts.
Yeah, which, as we
Yeah.
just said, when you're in your circle of the spores, is awesome.
Yeah.
You get 1d4 plus 1d6.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something I'm thinking about. I don't know.
All right, you sit on that. We'll have. If
I just hate multi-class so much. I don't know anything about it. I don't know how to combine.
it's so confusing,
hard.
and I don't like that. The last thing that I want to look at that I haven't looked at yet, so I'm looking it up and filling time by continuing to talk as I search for this, is what stats do you get, and different like what abilities and stuff from taking monk or druid. So when you
It was not that
proficiencies.
interesting.
Okay, so for
Yeah.
druid, you get light armor, medium armor, and shields, which you're not going to use. And for monk, you get simple weapons and short swords. Cool. So really missing out on nothing either direction you go.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's everything we've got for the Druid Monk multiclass. I guess if you're, once again, going into the Circle of the Moon Druid and the Drunken Master Monk, the Drunk multiclass, I guess if we had another one, it would just be Drunk. It's really not worth thinking about. We haven't kept up with this at all. So enough of that, into our promotional minute. If you do not yet, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Also, leave a review. They are super helpful in people finding us, and people finding us means that we are happy. That's really it. Just give us some dopamine releases. Yay! Otherwise, follow us on Twitter at monsters_multi and subscribe to our subreddit so that you never miss an episode or one of my hilarious jokes. Yay! All right, let's go ahead and get into our monster of the week, which is the Ogres.
This episode's monsters are the Ogres. The Ogres are kind of unique in Monsters in Multiclass because this is one of the few enemies that truly is just like everything you think it's going to be. This, unfortunately, reading about these things, it makes you feel bad for a lot of the creatures that get lumped into chaotic evil, because you can say like, oh, orcs aren't that bad. They've got their culture and stuff. Ogres don't. They just eat tiny things they can find. They're giants. They're effectively living siege weapons, and they truly are just the dumbest of the dumb. So let's get into the Ogres.
First one is just the flat ogre. So this is, as you said, Will, I mean, they're very simple. I mean, even with their descriptions, and one of the headers that I specifically gravitated towards was legendary stupidity. So you're not going to, unless you want to make this an entire thing as a DM, you're not going to have an ogre who surprises you with its intelligence. I think even a smart one would be like, oh, it can count to 10. So I think the first thing popping out is that these are the definition of cannon fodder, of like a quick and easy encounter that there is not going to be a huge moral gray area on. It's going to be you walk up, there's an ogre, and we should probably kill that.
Yeah, not a whole lot of room for nuance here.
It gives you
obviously,
reasons.
you could always change it up. I mean,
Right.
you don't have to fully listen to the lore. Yeah, you can. I've heard that actually of a sample non-combat encounter is a party runs into an ogre out in the woods, and it's like, yeah, it's still not intelligent, but it's not violent, and like wants to take them back to its house, and it shows them the knitting that it's been working on and feeds them and sends them on their way. Just like, yeah, stuff like that. It's like, obviously you could always do that. You could always change up the ogre. You could have a smart ogre. You could have, whatever. But as written, no. There's not a lot of nuance here. They're dumb. They're angry. They're hungry.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of reasons why they might cause problems in civilized society with like its greedy collectors. It's like, what do they like? Well, they like taking treasure. Okay, yeah, that's probably going to cause some issues.
They like the possessions of others.
Yeah. They like
So
eating.
your interests are stealing and eating sentient creatures.
Yep.
Gonna pass on this resume.
Yeah. So I think even as you said, well, this is the antithesis of what we usually do, because even with goblins, it's like, oh, people don't use goblins correctly. They just throw goblins at their party, and that's it. They just think it's an easy encounter, nothing to it. But there's so much more to goblins. Whereas with ogres, it's like, yep, that's it. Got an armor class of 11, HP of 59, so they're going to be easy to hit, and you're going to hit them a lot. Challenge rating 2, so probably low-level party who's going to be fighting them, and they hit like trucks. Great Club 2d8 plus 4, or a Javelin of 2d6 plus 4.
Yep. Yeah, challenge rating 2. Hits hard, a lot of health. These make for great low-level little bosses.
I could see that.
Maybe, your going after a goblinoid encampment, and the leader has tricked an ogre into working for him, or bribed the ogre.
Yeah, see, it's not even
into
trick so
working for
much.
him.
It seems like they're pretty easily persuaded to work for others. Like if you just go, "Hey, ogre, come work with us, and we'll make sure you're fed." They'd be like, "Sure, yeah, all right." Yeah, I mean that's about it. There's not much more thought to it.
Right. So yeah, it's the type of thing where maybe you're captured by goblinoids and they're having you face their champion in a pit or something. And ogres.
Ooh, I like
what
that.
could come out.
Yeah, I'd like that a lot.
Something I want to bring up is because this is something I was actually thinking about, because it's not a deep thing, but a lot of I think a lot of our listeners probably are more advanced users, but this is one of the probably perfect enemies for your very beginner players, because in addition to being, it's just a sack of meat, they're easy to hit. They have a lot of hit points, so there's a lot of that back and forth of damage. You've also got just one of the most dog shit stat blocks I've ever seen in my life. So if you want to try and trick an ogre, it's easy. If you want to try and sneak by an ogre, it's easy. All these things are so fucking easy because they're so bad at everything except hitting stuff. So it's perfect for your players. Yeah, it's perfect for your players to start experimenting and learning about their characters.
You got a very good point there, where maybe they do realize that, hey, this thing is going to beat the crap out of us if we try and fight it. But we could probably persuade it to leave us alone, or we can, as you said, trick it. We can sneak past it. We can put a paper bag over its head and make it think that the lights went out. I mean, just whatever your characters or your players want to do. I think that this is the great thing for them to really try it out on. But also
intelligence of 5 and wisdom and charisma of 7.
Yeah, it's not all there.
As I said. Probably the worst I've seen in a while.
But Kevin, as you were saying, and I think this kind of comes into what I was next point of, they are kind of good enhancers for crappier enemies, for those low level fights. If you need that thing that they just need to focus on that makes the players go, "Oh God, this is going to be a difficult fight," then these are perfect to throw in. So your players are fighting a couple of kobolds, and they're like, this is super easy. But then the kobold comes dragging an ogre out with a chain and like a piece of meat that the ogre's basically following behind, and then throws it at the party, and then goes in and attacks. Great time for the party to just have that like escalation moment, where you don't need to have all of this deep and rich flavor for the ogre. It's more of the other things that are bringing the ogre to the fight, showing off that, okay, kobolds might be weak, but they're not entirely stupid. They've obviously tricked this ogre into fighting for it. Heck, maybe even let your PCs trick an ogre into fighting for it. As long as you don't have any elves, halflings, or dwarves, you're good. Because for whatever reason, they hate those. That's the one bit of flavor that really comes into it, is that they absolutely hate dwarves, elves, and halflings. No explanation to it either. So they're good enhancers for other fights, for other creatures, for other encounters, which I think even brings us to the siege variants that they have.
In Mordenkainen's?
In Mordenkainen's, yes.
Yeah, so there's, 4 in here?
Yes, we've got the Howdah, the Bolt Launcher, the Battering Ram, and the Brute.
Chain Brute,
I apologize.
Chain Brute, yes.
Very important distinction.
Yeah, so the idea behind these, even though they're not particularly intelligent, with enough training and convincing, they can be convinced to pick up different types of weapons and utilize certain roles, and each one of these are just kind of catered.
I'd hate to be the trainer for that.
Yeah.
Ogre just keeps picking up a club, and he's like, no club, chain. Smash.
Yeah, it sounds like ogres will never kind of come up with these on their own. It's always trained by someone else, so this really does fit into working with other people. An evil army would probably have a bunch of ogres fleshing out their ranks and people like this. So first one is the Ogre Battering Ram. This is challenge rating 4, 59 hit points, 14 AC. It is a siege monster, so it deals double damage to structures. It has 2 interesting abilities. Bash, so +6 to hit, 2d10 plus 4 bludgeoning damage, and it can push the target 5 feet away if it's huge or smaller. And then block the path. So it's an action to take, and until the next turn, attack rolls against Ogre have disadvantage. It has advantage on opportunity attacks, and that opportunity attack deals an extra 3d10 bludgeoning damage. Also, if any enemy tries to move out of the Ogre's reach without teleporting, it needs to succeed on a DC 14 strength saving throw, or its speed is reduced to 0.
So it's kind of like Sentinel.
Yeah.
Kind of. It would get rid of, say, I like that specification of without teleporting, because that means even if you disengage, even if you have mobile as a feat, anything that would generally say it doesn't provoke an opportunity attack, it doesn't matter. It's still going to keep you from moving, regardless of what you do. If you move out of its reach. Its reach isn't too good, though. It doesn't have anything like, it's not also a polearm master. It just has a 5-foot reach.
Right. Yeah, but these could definitely be utilized in tighter battlefields to really control the party.
Mm-hmm.
Where they go, blocking off areas, things like that.
Yeah, it is 100% good for blocking a path. It is saying that you need to kill this thing before you get past it, which to some extent is a little funny to me because it is a battering ram. I could very easily see reflavoring this if you were going to use it for that protection aspect as a shield ogre, where I would just give it really the exact same stuff. I would just give it a shield instead of a battering ram and probably take away the siege monster thing. So that it's just supposed to be standing right there, maybe up its AC by 2 because of the shield.
Like a Mauler in Gears of War.
Yes, exactly like that. Which if you're not familiar with that, I'm so sorry because that thing's super cool. Basically just a giant ogre with a huge ass shield, and it just swings a flail that explodes when it hits the ground. That was a really cool enemy. So yeah, I could see this thing kind of being like a Mauler from Gears of War. You just leave in, again, everything, raise its AC a little bit, take away Siege Monster, and you're good.
Yeah. If you want to get really interesting with it, give them a big old polearm with the 10-foot reach.
Yeah.
And essentially, they'll need to be like a tunnel fighter. There's that UA fighting fighting.
Oh, the one that everybody fucking hates.
Yeah, it's pretty much banned. It's never got officially released, but yeah.
It never got officially released because it was garbage. But it was garbage in the sense that it was too good, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's too good. It gave you unlimited opportunity attacks.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
I think I'm trying to remember. I think it also did reduce speeds to 0. And it's just moving within your reach, so you could basically lock it down like 40-foot cube. Or no, 20-foot cube. Not 40.
Yeah, whatever.
Cube. Yeah.
A 40-foot area
yeah,
total.
Yeah, that's what I got mixed up. But yeah.
That's stupid. Okay, so yeah, glad that never made it to publication.
Right.
But beyond that, I think the flavor of this sums it up very well. These ogres are drilled in 2 simple tasks: rushing forward to shatter enemy fortifications and using their weapons to force an advancing enemy to halt. That is it. And
they're very good at it.
And they're very good at it.
Yeah, because keep in mind, since they're siege monster, like that bash, which is 2d10 plus 4, it's going to be, 4d10 plus 8, essentially.
If you are a gate, yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, that's why it's good at bashing in gates.
Oh no! My father was a castle gate. That's my backstory.
The absolute dumbest class mechanic is like, you count as an object or structure. Nothing else. Just, I don't care how you build the class around that, you count as an object or structure. The next thing is the Ogre Bolt Launcher. So this is another one of those siege ones. Challenge rating 2. Really the only thing is it gets this additional action, or just a different action of using a bolt launcher, which does 3d10 plus 1 damage and has plus 3 to hit. These are the things that are causing a minor nuisance throughout the siege. that just stay in the back, and honestly, I could see it being like a... Okay, this brings up like a totally different point. Siege warfare in D&D 5e is very hard to do. The real best way to do it, that I've never successfully done myself, is let the siege happen, totally ignore it mechanically, and give the party specific tasks to take care of to influence the overall outcome of the siege. I could very easily see one of those tasks being, hey, you four, go and take care of the bolt launchers. They keep shooting into our walls, and it's causing a whole shit ton of issues.
Right. Yeah, I like the flavor of these since they're essentially holding ballistas as hand crossbows. And they're so large, it's saying a lot of times, like the bolts are so big they can only hold about like half a dozen at a time, but they've been known to uproot trees and fire them and shit like that.
That's just hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, tear beams out of buildings and launch those as ammunition.
That is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. And 3d10 plus 1 for a challenge rating 2 is a heck of a hit from 120 feet away.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah. But, like, at the same time, if you were, for any reason, fighting this, like, in a one-on-one fight, it would just be stupid.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's just, that's all I'm saying, is it's not a good enemy to just ever use, except for, in my opinion, in this siege warfare type thing, where, like, you have a reason for it to be sitting there, not trying to attack a single target, but it's just firing in, because it has +3 to hit.
Yeah.
Very bad.
Yeah, the dex is not very good. Yeah.
No.
I just like the kind of cartoony image of your party's like gearing up to fight these ogres, and they're not brawling it out like one-on-one, and they slay one of them, and the party's all triumphant, and then just a fucking tree comes out of nowhere and just slams in to the lead fighter, just knocking him off screen 30 feet away.
That is something that I think would actually add to this, is if it had an ability where on a hit it moves the creature back 10 feet to like really put that weight behind it. Is like, you're not just getting hit, you are getting slammed by this thing. You're getting hit by a beam, a support beam of a building. Like, that's not 3d10 damage, that's a lot more.
Yeah.
There's no way to mechanically add a ballista. If you get shot by a ballista, it's just you're just so unbelievably dead. It's not even funny. They're the most hilarious weapons in siege warfare. If you're not getting hit by them, but I like the flavor. It mechanically,
it's there.
Gives you a ranged ogre.
Exactly.
Yep. All right. What's next? The chain brute. These ones get just massive spiked chains.
Super cool.
Challenge rating 3, hit points of 59, hits with a fist. But the main thing is it's chain sweep and chain smash. Chain sweep, it can swing the chain around it, and anything within 10 feet of the ogre needs to make a DC 14 dex save. On a fail, takes 1d8 plus 4 bludgeoning, is knocked prone. Success half damage is not knocked prone. So this basically gets an AoE, just kind of wading through a battlefield, whipping the spiked chain around would be really cool.
Yeah, and usually that's like definitely would be a recharge ability. Like, that's something that it wouldn't have every single turn, but that's its job. These things are working in teams.
That's what it does.
And it's just trying to trip everything around so that way the other ogres can come up, or whatever creatures can come up and just stab away.
Right. And then it does have a recharge ability too, the chain smash. Recharge of 6. This one's really cool. It's +6 to hit. It's just one target. Basically, the idea is they're just bringing this massive chain down on something's head. 2d8 plus 4 bludgeoning damage, and they need to make a DC 14 con save, or they are knocked unconscious for a minute. That's not something you see often.
No. Never, actually.
You're not at 0 hit points. You're just unconscious for a minute, but you can repeat the save and throw if it takes damage at the end of its turn.
Yeah, and that's,
if it takes damage and at the end of each of its turn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh. So what I kind of see as this thing is like that ability in particular kind of puts in perspective what kind of chains these are. These aren't your standard chains. They're just like massive, like naval style chains.
Yeah.
And you look at this and like each one of these is like created as a siege weapon, but it's created by very dumb creatures. So this I see this as like this very lazy attempt to be like, all right, the ogre's not very good at killing crowds of people. What should we do? I don't know. Give him these huge chains we stole and make him spin around. And that's just like that's what you get. It's like, oh, that's, all right.
Yeah, all right, just spin around. I could also see this working against the attackers, where this ogre doesn't really care who it's swinging against. It's not going to be intelligent enough to distinguish between friend and foe. It's going to swing its chain around as it's been told to do, and probably hit a lot of friendlies, if not kill a lot of friendlies in the process.
Definitely. I like that too.
Yeah. And then randomly just doing taking its momentum from spinning and like throwing it overhead.
Yeah.
Just come down on something.
Big old smash.
And yeah. And don't forget unconscious. I mean, usually since you're only unconscious if you're at 0 hit points, so you have bigger things to worry about. But I mean that is advantage for everything within all attacks and auto crits if you're in 5 feet, automatically failing strength and dex saves.
Yeah, even ranged attacks.
It's a really bad
have advantage against unconscious creatures.
Minus the fact that you're lying down on the ground.
You're prone.
Yeah, so it would just be a regular attack. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So yeah, I can't think of any other ability off the top of my head that just makes you go unconscious. Besides like the Banshee, which I think drops you to 0 HP, it doesn't make you go unconscious. So this is pretty unique in that regard.
Right. Yeah, because then you have, the battering ram ogre comes in and bashes you for 40-10 plus 4 to bludgeoning damage or something. Or
beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I don't expect the ogres to be like side by side working together too much, though it is possible. Again, I expect this more to be that some army of whatever concoction has a couple of these things. So they're probably spreading them out, putting them in key areas, whatever. Or you could have a bunch of them working together. That's fine too. And you're totally right. The battering ram would be very deadly.
I like that as a complete refutation of my life. This is a great enemy. This set of enemies is great for beginning players to really get to know themselves. And chain smash your healer, then use the battering ram to make sure they can't get near him and execute that son of a bitch.
Okay, well then I'll say that
crush his head.
Shows us that ogres...
Welcome to session 1.
Well, you had 8 health. You had 8 health. You'd only +2 to your con, you stupid wizard. No, okay, but I think that does go to show that using these as siege monsters, which Morden Canaan's kind of opened up here, gave the ogres a second life. Because otherwise, what are you going to use the base one for? It's for
siege meat.
Yeah, I mean, it's for crappy low-level encounters. So here we are now at level 10. And sure, these things individually aren't too hard, but the fact that you also have to kill 20 whatevers in the process makes these things pretty darn cool to fight.
Right.
And they can be used with giants.
Yeah, you could also, like with the exception of the Howdah probably, which we'll get to in a minute here, run into a group of these. Yeah. Out there, you could flavor it as not so much of the ogres coming up with the spot themselves and like dividing up their tasks.
The Nagpa.
But there was a big, maybe sure, or there was a large army and the army lost, and these ogres survived and they ran away and they kind of loosely grouped up. Yeah, and they I mean, this is what ogres do anyways. When they're not following somebody, they're brigands and they will sometimes group up, and these ones ran away from an army together. It's like, all right, let's group up.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
It's just a random, really tough, kind of interesting random ogre encounter. We have 2 bolt launchers, a battering ram, and a chain brute.
Perfect. I'm already...
Scary fight.
Yep, already terrified.
And a Howdah who can't get the palisade off his back.
that would be good flavor where they just use him to like store all of the like meat and treasure that they get. Like he literally becomes their pack mule.
Oh, that'd be good.
So that's a great segue into the Howdah. Actually, it's a little too late for a good segue into it. But the Howdah is basically a siege transport beast. Its thing is that it has a giant, compact fort on its back. Up to 4 small creatures can ride in the fort without squeezing. To make a melee attack against a target within 5 feet of the ogre, they must use spears or weapons with reach. And creatures in the fort have 3/4 cover against attacks and effects from outside it. But if the ogre dies, creatures in the fort are placed next to the ogre, basically. So it just has a giant fort on its back that it can carry around small creatures.
Yep. And then it has a mace.
And it has a mace.
It comes at the
2d6.
cost of its weapon being worse, just objectively.
Yeah. But basically, it's mobile coverage for these. Yeah, you put 3 goblins in there, 3 and whatever, just any small creature, and they don't have to use their movement to attack. They have 3/4 coverage.
Yeah, I mean, it shows them having, just bow and arrows or whatever else. It also just, again, works as transport, where it can just consistently go back and forth from the back of the line to the front of the line, continuing to replenish troops quicker, because there's, 40-foot movement, as well as with giving them cover throughout the entire time. So, very great siege weapon, or in that random encounter, a very good pack mule that they're like, oh, he's kind of useless. He can't take this giant thing off his back. Well, let's just load it up and just put all of our food in there.
That poor ogre. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't care. He literally just reaches back and grabs in and grabs whatever he wants when he wants it.
Oh, that'd be so mean though if he couldn't. Like, he can't get into his own howdah. And he was just like the smaller ogre, so they bully him. And then you get him to turn on his friends. It's perfect.
There you go.
And then you get to ride around in it.
Now he's your
We'll have to
ogre
crab
howdah.
in because we're medium, but
I would at least let 2 medium creatures in. If 4 small creatures can fit in here, I think 2 medium can fit in just fine.
yeah, 2 medium comfortably, or 4 medium, but they'd have to kind of cram it and
Right.
not be able to
Oh
do
my
much.
god, that would be such a hilarious, long-term transportation method. Is if your party had befriended this ogre, for whatever reason it had, I don't care how you get to this circumstance, but then your party, instead of having horses, instead of doing anything, they just get in the back of this thing and just let it be their horse and just travel around with it. Show up
dashes every turn. Yeah.
Yeah, show up to a village, and they're all terrified, and just 4 adventurers pop out, and they're like, "Hey, got any place we can stable our ogre?
Then he eats all the horses. And,
We'll pay for that," and just give it's the classic shitty adventurer trope, where everybody in the village is like, "God, I hate adventurers. They just come in with their ogres, they eat all of our horses, and then pay us 200 gold, ruining our entire economy."
it's such bullshit.
Just hyperinflation the second that adventurers come through.
Yeah, because they found 1,500 years' salary in a cave 3 days ago. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So
Nice little touch with the art for the ogre howdah, if we're saying that right. There's a dead horse at its feet,
yeah, there is.
which
So,
I think is kind of a little nod. This is Mounts 2.0.
yeah. Horses are dead. Ogre howdahs are in.
I thought the horse was sleeping. Kevin, you ruined that for me.
I don't think horses sleep on their sides.
All right, well they
Some do.
Do they?
Oh no, not some. Some will lay down, but I don't think on their sides. Isn't
Okay.
there something they can't breathe like that?
Yeah, no, that's the dead horse position.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay, yeah, that's gonna be a thing now. I just like to imagine each party member having their own ogre howdah. Yeah, we traded in our horses for a newer model. Perfect. Well, that's everything I have around ogres. I think we covered them much better than I expected.
Yep.
Yeah, Mordecai's ogres are pretty cool.
Yeah, for as little flavor as it added, a lot you can do with it.
Yep. Oh, there's half ogres or grillin. Those are a thing. They're not really interesting.
Half
Like-
ogres, they're a
like a-
thing. That's it. They're a thing. I have literally nothing else. They're challenge rating 1. That's what happens when you mix a ogre
Their
and
stat blocks are
They're
yeah,
smart.
they're weaker ogres.
So if you want an ogre fight and some half ogres as baddies with it, they're there. They exist. If there's rich lore, it's not in 5e.
Cool. All right. Ask Monsters multi-class segment, and then we'll wrap this up.
All right. So today's question, I don't know who it comes from. Wait, it's from Penguin Knight. That's right. Penguin Knight gave us like 30 questions. So thank you, Penguin Knight. You get another one answered, which is, how did Monsters and Multiclass come to be? How did you guys meet? And how did the podcast come into the picture? So I don't think it's like some amazing epic tale of how we met. It was playing D&D.
So, well, Will and I knew each other from
that's
middle
fair.
school.
That's fair.
7th or 8th grade, we met.
That's an epic tale for the ages.
No, we met in the science class at Center Middle School.
Yes, we sat next to each other. And then our school had like the last period of the day was like it was kind of like a forced study hall that everyone had, and we were in that together too.
Are your last names close enough that you sat next to each other?
Nope.
Okay.
Not really.
Odie and Mel. Oh, actually, yeah, those are kind of close.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to ask.
There's usually an M and an N somewhere in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
So we've been friends since.
And when did you guys start playing D&D?
Man, that was 18 or 19. I don't know. So
Yeah, that
it was like
just
10
after
years
high school.
ago.
So like 2008, 2009.
Okay.
Just after high school.
And was it with
early college? We I won't say the last names because I don't want to put anyone else's last name out there. But Dave, who you definitely have not met, Jared, but Will, I know you remember. He DM'd for us, and we played sporadically. It was one of those groups that was really hard to get together. So it was like every 3 months we managed to play, which was really frustrating. That was in 4E was out, but we were playing 3.5.
Okay, like most people.
Next.
Yeah. And then, there was kind of breaks off and on and played sporadically. Then we started playing with Razvan and that group. That's where you came in, Jared. We started with the playtest packet of D&D Next. Actually, no, we started that with Dave.
You didn't start it with me, I'm sure of that.
Yeah. Yeah, we tried to do a long-form campaign using the playtest packets of D&D Next, which ended up being not a good idea because they kept changing them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you had to redo your character every time they released a major episode.
Yeah, or you just like picked one of the playtest packets and like that's it, but there was some really broken stuff because they just threw a bunch at the wall and saw what stuck. Like they were like, oh, in this playtest packet we really want to experiment with this stuff.
Okay.
And so there was like elements missing. We shouldn't have done it that way, but
Did you guys like enjoy the rules enough to feel like you were a part of like the creation of a new edition, or was it just like, wow, they keep changing rules?
No, I
super
directly
stupid.
believe I had a major impact on the core mechanics of D&D.
It's just something you guys just changed every time they're like, yeah, here's a new thing, and you're like, well, I guess we gotta adhere to these.
The core operating principles of 5e existed in the pretty much beginning. They knew what the major changes between editions, which are way too numerous to get into, they existed at the very beginning. Everything else just kind of came and went, all the systems that they added. They had a completely different system for proficiencies and skills and stuff like that that we used. It was just weird in general, and it didn't end up working very well, but the core was there, so, that was fun.
Yeah. And then I came in once Tyranny of Dragons was released, and I didn't realize that 5th edition was so new, because I think Tyranny of Dragons came out like when 5th edition was released, didn't it? Or was it like shortly
Basically.
after? Okay. So, yeah, I mean, my best friend was dating the DM's brother, and she was like, hey, you want to play this D&D stuff? And I was like, yes, my entire life. I just didn't know it. And that was it. At least for meeting. I mean, I didn't really talk to you guys too much outside of D&D for the first year or so, maybe.
It's been 10 years, man. I don't remember.
Well, 5th edition has been 10 years ago. That was 2014 it came out?
Yeah, so 6 years
Was that
now.
your senior year of high school?
Yes.
Yeah, I legitimately think that might have been the reason why it took us longer to be friends, because at that point Will and I were like out of college,
right,
working our careers. You were in high school, so it just kind of felt a little odd.
For sure.
Which, I mean, no offense, right? And just
I don't take offense to it. I was
yeah,
in high school.
a year or so after, yeah.
It was also just like,
You kind of, yeah.
you just got like put at a table with people. I don't know. It's not immediately like, let's hang out every day. Can I come watch your
Right,
dog?
yeah.
Or like, it's just, you don't even have a dog. Now you have a dog. But then the question
Yes.
of how did Monsters in Multiclass come to be? I think a large portion of our friendship actually did revolve around yelling about D&D outside of the table. This is like a really large portion of it was just bringing up like miscellaneous rules or talking about a situation that happened at the table and then breaking down like the ruling of it and trying to find the exact correct ruling if there was one.
Yeah, or why something is the way it is. Or
Yeah, or like, me saying, well, I don't think it should be that way, and you guys going, well, it should, and here's why you're stupid, until I realized that most of the time you guys were right. Which is, I mean, how it went, because I think there's I guess a deep understanding of these types of rules that you need to have, that like they're doing these things for a reason. It's not just to punish people. There is
Right.
balance to it. So yeah, I mean, we just did that for so long that it was like, hey, what is the natural progression of this podcast?
Yeah, I know. For a while, we were kind of joke about it. Oh, we should have a podcast. Like after we'd get in one of those like long arguments, like
Right.
man, we should have a podcast. Like kind of sarcastically,
Right.
Then over the course of a year, it was like we should actually have a podcast,
Right.
It just turned from like a sarcastic joke to like we can actually probably do that.
Right. And
I
here
guess
we are.
there needs to be some hubris in that to think we're interested enough to pull it off, but
No, I think that was
Who
actually
doesn't have that at this point? I mean, that's the issue with podcasting is everyone has that hubris now. So
right.
I think that was also a very large portion of what kept us from doing it for like the 6 months we joked about it. Was like, yeah, but everybody thinks that they should have a podcast. That's like the thing. But we did that test episode and it was like, oh, well, regardless of whether or not people like this, it's kind of fun to do. It was like a structured
Right.
format of us talking about D&D and gave me an excuse to pour over the rules even more. I think the one thing that's been crazy about all of this is how much better of an understanding I have of the rules because I feel like I now have to be a master.
Right. And what you said, we did our test episode and like, oh, regardless if people like it, that was fun. I think that's really the key
Yeah.
to it. It's like we just have fun doing it, so we decide, oh, we'll just do it. And people seem to like it, and it's gaining some traction and whatnot. But I think that's kind of the key of continuing and sticking with a podcast because I mean it's slow at first.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even still, just like, and which is not a complaint by any means. It's unless you already have a name for yourself out in that community, or you get really, really lucky. It's just slow. There's a lot of episodes where not a whole lot of listeners and a lot of long stretches of time without much traction being gained. But as long as you're having fun doing it, who cares?
Yeah. And I say these are still a blast to record. So, the downtime in between sometimes is like a slog, like looking at the numbers because I'm like, yeah, I of course need to obsess over this for no reason. But no, it's fun despite Will never wanting to do it.
I hate everything.
Yeah. Forgetting that we
I
have a
hate
podcast.
everything more than anybody else has ever loved anything.
I feel like that's not like an actual stance you have. It's just your shtick. Like that's your thing.
Yeah, that's my shtick.
Yeah.
So, in terms of specifically like the monsters and multi-class part of this podcast, why we do that, because like initial conversations and everything and arguments weren't specific to anything. We felt like we needed a segment to direct conversation. We were worried if it was just like, oh, this is just a D&D podcast where we talk about D&D and we'll see how it goes, that it would be really consistent and you'd have some episodes real short, others long. And so we really felt it was important to kind of put some structure on it. And there was no like big special thing of why it's breaking out a multi-class and doing a monster of the week other than...
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. We know we can keep that going for a while. We've had some interesting conversations on it. Like, I forgot what I think it might have actually been Druid Monk. Like, we had a conversation, like, in our D&D chat It was Monk something
Okay.
about how could this work. And we kind of went back and forth for a while, and then one of us realized, like, oh shit, this could be one of our segments. We got a really good conversation out of that. It kind of ends up touching all parts of D&D a little bit to really bring up a bunch of different conversations, and there's a bunch of them, so it'll keep us going for a while.
Yeah.
And then we threw on Monster of the Week because honestly it was easy. Like that's just a given. That's not unique. That's not creative. It's just it's really, to be honest. I mean,
No, you're entirely right.
it's like a really obvious segment.
Yeah.
Monster of the Week, sure, they're easy to do, but it's fun and it kind of covers the other parts of D&D that the multi-class discussion doesn't.
And honestly, I think the monster stuff has been even more helpful sometimes than the multi-class stuff. Like, I forget the multi-class stuff almost the second we talk about it if it's a bad one. But like the monster stuff, we come up with some pretty good ideas that I just steal for our campaign, or tweak afterwards that you guys aren't expecting it immediately. So
It's a great
Right.
behind the scene kind of thing because one side's players, one side's DMs. Honestly, and
Yeah.
it's a great combination.
Yeah.
there you go, people.
Yeah. So, with all that being said, there's probably at some point here where we'll swap segments out because, I mean, we will run out of multi-class. We are more than halfway through them all. And as we just said, kind of the initial idea was just a D&D podcast to discuss D&D and the segments to facilitate conversation. So even though we named ourselves Monsters of Multiclass and kind of been positioned as the multi-class guys, I guess probably eventually that will go away and we'll have to come up with another segment.
Specifically after 22 more episodes. That's how many more multi-classes.
Yeah, which seems like a really long time, but we're already on episode basically 60 here, and that felt like it went quick. So
Yeah. So
oh god, that's scary.
yeah, I mean, we have some
Is
other.
that counting the Artificer?
What's that?
Is that counting the Artificer?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so we have like a couple other segment ideas, and I think that as we get closer, we'll experiment around with that of, just different things to talk about. I think we've found, at least with like when new content is released, I love talking about that. I think that's, something we're going to keep doing. The monster stuff can go on for a whole lot longer. But otherwise, there's just probably just miscellaneous concepts we're going to want to talk about. Like, backgrounds. Backgrounds are weird. What do we like about them? What do we not like about them? How could they be better? Great. That's a whole conversation that I'm sure we could go on for 40 minutes.
Yeah. We'd probably go on for hours.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean,
We're rather verbose.
that's why we're doing this. But if you do ever have questions or maybe types of segments that you think you would want to hear us talk about, let us know, because as Kevin said, at some point we're going to be out of multi-classes here and we want to keep this going. And
we are not open to 3-class multi-class discussion. That's just absurd.
no,
Don't add us.
I think we have like one question in here that's like, what would be the best 3 multi-class? And I still have the question in there, but I haven't wanted to bring it up yet.
The answer is never speak to us ever again.
Actually, I'm good to answer that. I don't have an answer now. That's one.
Okay, yeah. We'll get to it at some point.
With another episode, yeah. Give us a warning when that one's coming
Yes,
up.
that was the reason why I haven't. Is because there's, I think, some thought that needs to go into it. But like, I just don't want to. I don't want to rant about it. We'll save it for that question. Why I'm not a huge fan of 3 multi-classes. But that's all I've got. Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them at us on Twitter, on Reddit, email, I guess. And yeah, anything else from you guys?
Nope.
Thanks for listening.
Next time on Monsters and Multiclass.
Join us as we discuss the Druid Warlock multiclass and then the Empyrean from the Monster Manual, I think.